Let's summarize the module, and I started out by saying how much more important SSL is in a mobile world, simply because you take those devices into environments that are more at risk of a man-in-the-middle attack, environments where you're more likely to get things like rogue Wi-Fi connections or someone monitoring the traffic at the proxy level. And throughout this course, I've made a couple of mentions of devices like Wi-Fi pineapples that are very adept at hijacking wireless connections. So clearly, SSL is extra essential in the mobile world. But equally, one of the really key messages of this module is that even when we have HTTPS, that traffic can still be observed and manipulated if you're able to install certificates on the device itself. We did that with Fiddler on the PC. We did it with Fiddler on the iPhone. Once we did that, we could interpret all of the HTTPS traffic, at least the traffic from apps that don't do any sort of certificate pinning, which is the vast majority of them. We also touched on some pretty serious SSL anti-patterns, in particular, disabling certificate validation. We saw it on Aussie Farmers Direct, and we saw it again on GoCatch. Not just disabled certificate validation in their case, but an invalid certificate altogether. And it just goes to show how much insecurity there can be behind very popular, well-known apps that you may well use every day. And finally, we looked at certificate pinning. When you do control both the client and the server, like you do in a mobile app world, certificate pinning can be a way of mitigating against the risk of a compromised certificate authority. That is a pretty small risk, admittedly, but for some classes of app, it might make sense. It's usually going to be those that have a much higher risk profile, things like banks, for example. That concludes Hack Your API First. I hope you've enjoyed watching this course and you've learned a whole heap about what's going on in the background behind the mobile apps on your devices, and you've also learned about the patterns to look for in your own apps so that you can improve their security profile before an attacker finds holes. Because the last thing you want is an attacker doing what we've just done in this course and finding vulnerabilities in your apps before you do.